Hi and welcome to the next section in this Cubase Guru synthesis course. From now on in we get very in-depth with the Zebra 2 synthesizer. In fact it will be the only synth that's used for the rest of the course apart from the very last section. And as you can see up here it says Zebra 2 oscillators. So that's the next section we're going to look at now. This is going to be quite a quick section in places because you already know quite a lot about the Zebra 2 oscillators because of the first couple of videos in the course. So I'm not going to spend too much time on things like the tuning and the wave selectors and the other sections of the oscillator because you should already be very familiar with them. I will skim over that though. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, the oscillator module itself. We know what that is. It's the oscillator that comes up in Zebra 2. It has the tuning, the mix effects and the phase sections. One thing you may not know is that it's collapsible. You can actually collapse it to save space. I'll show you that now. Okay, this section here, if you push that, the bottom bit folds up. And you push any one of these three sections, it comes back down. That's simple. That's simply there as a space saving tool. Okay, you can also create oscillator presets. Don't get these confused with patch presets. It's very easy to do. Here, if you look here, this is the areas you'll find your presets in. Depending on how you've installed and how you save the presets, for instance, they can have two different locations, as you can see on here. So I'll just show you how to save an oscillator preset. Okay, let's make a preset first of all. So we've got the basic default. I'll just detune that by 12 semitones or 1 octave. And I'll bring the tuning down a couple of octaves, let's say, just for fun. And then I'll put it on an 11 and we'll send the we'll put the detune up this way. Okay, I'm going to modulate the pan with the LFO. So if I go LFO 1, let's just do it. Okay. And we'll call it that. So that's going to be a starting position for a lot of my sound design. I'm going to make a lot of those kind of deep growling sounds. All we need to do is come across the default, right click, select Save Oscillator 1 Settings and call it what you like. So we can call this CG Growl. Okay. And that's it. So now when I come in here, you can see that's been saved on the local drive, which is the first option in Windows, which I'll show you again, which is this section here. That's where it will be saved. Obviously this isn't relevant to 64-bit operating systems. You would have the bracket times 86 and stuff in there. Okay, so that's the basics of the module. You already know these sections: the wave, the tune, the detune, the vibrato, the wave selection, the mix section, and you don't really know that much about the FX, so I'll just show you the other parts first. So if we just go back, so we've got the wave, the tune, the detune, the vibrato. You know what that does. Maybe not so much the wave one actually, so I can show you that. If you come down here to more oscillator, you've got this section here. You've got 16 waveforms that can all be changed. For instance, if I come in here and make it really crazy, and don't worry, I'll go into this section in a bit more detail in a minute. As you can see, I can move through the waveforms by using this. So that's all that does. And you know what the mix section does. You've got your pan, your modulation source for pan, you've got the volume, you've got your modulation source for volume, you've got your voice selection, and you've got the width. Again, all of these we've been through many times already. You've got the effects section where you've got all your different effects that you can add. You've got the value of the effect or the amount. You've got the modulation source for that, and then you've got exactly the same here with FX2. And you've got the phase section, which we've covered in detail in a previous video. So if I go back to look at the text, so you know what those are, you know what those do. Now here, the effects section, what I've done is I've actually listed every one of the effects. So you can see here fundamental, odd for even, brilliance and filter, and it does go on. Bandwidth, registrizer, scrambler, turbulence, symmetry, phase crossfire, phase root, trajector, ripples, Formanzilla, fractals. So if I just go back to Zebra, basically what that is it explains in detail what every single one of these does. So just if you want to know exactly what symmetry does, if you just go to the PDF file I've supplied, look for symmetry. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. Symmetry squeezes the waveform towards the beginning or the end of the waveform. Sounds like pulse width modulation. And with a square wave, that's exactly what it is. So if you've got a square wave in and you use symmetry, it's pulse width modulation, it'll move the square for you. So that's a guide for all the different effects. Okay, I've just got a little bit more detail here about the phase part of the synth. You should already know all of this, but we can go through it again. So basically what the phase section does is add a second waveform to the signal, which can then be manipulated by these controls. The phase tab allows you to add an inverted version of the current waveform to the signal. You already know that, we've gone through that. If you turn up the phase knob, it will determine the phase of the inverted wave. A sawtooth waveform with an added inverted sawtooth will result in a pulse waveform. Remember the little experiment we done in an earlier lesson when we added the two, an inverted one, and we got the square wave? That's basically what it's telling you there. Again, the sync button, you know all about this, we've gone into this in detail. The sync button activates the oscillator's hard sync feature. The oscillator can now be detuned by up to 3 octaves relative to its base frequency, while its phase is periodically reset at the base frequency. This effect adds a lot of harmonics and is excellent when sweeping the sync offset frequency, the sync parameter. It's much like the typical synthesizer guitar effect of analog synths. The main difference here is analog synths needed more than one oscillator to accomplish this, where Zebra can do it with one. I'll just let you hear that stuff. Okay, so let me just put this back to just a... Okay, so in the phase, you know all about the resetting. So if I turn the phase knob up, doesn't really do much, but if you put invert on, it will now send in another sawtooth. And there you go. But you know all this already. If we add sync on, it's now hard syncing to itself. And that sync knob there allows you to manipulate it or change it up by 3 octaves. That's now 3 octaves up. And the key scale. You understand that the key scale means at 100, each note is directly related to the notes on the keyboard. So if I go up from C3 to C4, it will be 12 semitones, and each note will trigger a semitone on the oscillator, so it will sound musically right. Above that, you change that relationship. It's no longer a one-to-one relationship. You can hear that's a much wider scale than one-to-one. And down. When it's at 0, it does a really, or minus 200. When you go up the keyboard, it actually goes down. So listen to this. This is me going from C3 to C4. You would expect the pitch to rise, but listen what happens. And if I go down, so what it's in fact done is reversed the pitch of the keyboard. I've yet to find a reason to use that. So if any of you find a reason to use reversing the pitch of the keyboard, I'd be interested to hear what you've done. Okay, I think we can move on now. Sorry, just before we move on, another one with the key scale. If you set it to 0, every note on the keyboard will be the same pitch. Again, another strange one, but it's there if you want to use it. Okay, we'll move on now. Okay, the next section is the More Oscillator section. Now this is something I briefly looked at a couple of minutes ago. Now we'll have a more in-depth look at this. There's far more information in the manual, but I can show you exactly what these things are. Okay, this is the More Oscillator section here. Basically, you've got 16 waveforms. So you start with your basic saw wave, but we can then manipulate that in here by drawing in different waveforms. Like for instance, I've drew this one in. Now, if I come here and right click, I've got three options. I can duplicate that waveform onto the first one. So if I do that, you'll then see it's the same. If I right click and select exchange, you'll see this one here go there and that one go there. So exchange, see? So that one's now there and that one's now there. So we've now got that like that. But what we can also do is you can drag, sorry, you can't drag, you can morph. So let's just change this one. Well, we'll just leave it like that, but we'll come up here. If I right click here and go morph, watch what happens. Did you see that? Now look at the waves from there to there. This is my favourite thing about Zebra. I just love this because it allows you to create so many crazy sounds. Now watch this section here. It automatically morphed from that to that. Not wharfed. That's the guy out of Star Trek. Morphed. So it morphed from that to that. So let's have a look. See that? You might be thinking, yeah, but you can only just play that section or that section. No, you can't. I've actually already showed you this before. I just remembered. I showed you this when we were creating pulse waves and stuff earlier on. But the great thing about this can be modulated. So we come up here to the wave section. This section here is the modulation part for wave. We right click, select LFO1. So it's now modulating. In fact, I've showed you this already as well. But if you get more extreme, some real crazy stuff. When you're in this section here, if you right click, you get all of these choices. So let's just insert some points and I can show you what the other choices do. Okay. Okay, so if I select all of these points like so, and then right click and select smooth selected, watch what happens. It's smoothed them off. So now if I pull that up, if I pull that one up, you'll see it's rounded it off, which is really neat for drawing, yeah, you guessed it, sine waves, stuff like that. Let's just take that modulation off. You can also linear selected, makes it straight. There's your, you can create, I'll just show you roughly. Remove that point, bring this one up there, remove that point, oh, remove point, remove point. What does that look like? There's your ADSR envelope. So you can have all kind. You can pretty much draw anything you want in here, and you can peak the selected nodules, which gives you a really fine clinical peak there. And you can distribute all, which evens it out, and you can clear it, of course, and you can copy. Mess around with this, you'll have great fun with it. Okay, a couple of other things I want to show you in this area. We've got the key scale here. What this allows you to do is pretty much lower the volume on any section of the keyboard. So if I play now 2 octaves from C3 up, if I come in here and do that, same again, you can hear it getting quieter. So you can control levels on specific parts of the keyboard, and you can also do the same with velocity. So if I continue to hit the same key at the same level, listen to what happens. With the same force, triggering the velocity. Okay, I'm still hitting it with the same force. It's very hard. Now if I start hitting it really soft, so you can have velocity controlled keyboard information, which can be useful for a whole host of things. Again, check the manuals for a more in-depth explanation of these. This section over here, normalize, does exactly that, makes it louder. I'll get into those two in a minute. Geomorph, Spectral Morph, GeoBlend and Spectral Blend. Let's have a look at the text file for that. Okay, Spectral Morph and Geomorph. In these modes you can draw a waveform using up to 32 points. Tools are accessed by right-clicking. That's exactly what I just showed you by drawing in the points, and right-click in the main section to get the tools. Spectral Blend and GeoBlend is a bit different. You've got additive partials. Now, if you don't know what additive partials are, it's to do with, well, additive synthesis really. What it is it breaks up the spectrum into X amount of points and allows you to control each individual point. Now, I'll show you that. Okay, so let's go into GeoBlend. Now, if I play this, even though it's a flat line, it'll be a saw wave still. Sorry, it is a saw wave, but it won't be triggered until you start moving the partials. Now you'll see what the partials are. You see them there? There's more information about this in the manual that tells you exactly how many partials there is. Okay, so it is a saw wave at the moment, but you can't hear it because you need to boost or cut the partials. So if I boost some of the partials, you should hear it now. So as you can see, you can get really creative with this stuff. And of course you can still use the blur, the sharpen. So if I blur that, it kind of rounds it off. If you sharpen it, it sharpens it off. You can maximize it. And then of course you can come here, draw something totally different. Then you can come here and draw something completely different again. And then you can morph them all together. So if I come from this one to this one and morph them, I've now got that one morphing into that one. Neat. Then if I come here and do the same, I've now morphed all of those shapes together, and this is where you can get unbelievably creative and make just the craziest sounds. And of course, as I said earlier on, you can modulate that. So what you've got happening there is a rhythmic oscillator. You can put it to 16s. So as you can see, you can create some crazy stuff. So it's excellent. My favourite section, as I've already mentioned. And as I mentioned earlier, the normalize section, it makes them louder. It makes the volumes between the wave types, because you may have a volume, like let's say we've got something like that. That may be lower. Let me just turn that modulation off. That may be lower than that or that. You can hear it dropping. So what normalize does is normals out the RMS, the root mean square volume, for want of a better word, across all 16. So they all sound pretty much the same, level-wise. Resolution, what resolution does is makes the transition from one wave to the next smoother. Be aware, it's CPU intensive. However, it still makes very little difference, but it does use your CPU. For instance, look at what we've got at the moment. I don't know, 2%. If I turn the resolution up, it's minimal. So you can make this the transition smoother. Normally around about 8's enough. But again, this stuff is all about experimenting. And you've got Spectral Blend, which is pretty much the same, although it's the spectrum, it's the audio spectrum. You can hear how it's different. Again, all in the manual. I'd advise you to read the manual to get more in depth. But some great sounds. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's get into some of the other oscillators that Zebra 2 has to offer. The FMO, or the frequency modulation oscillators. Zebra 2's got 4 of these modulation oscillators. They are very basic oscillators generating simple sine waves. So unlike the complex oscillators, they can be modulated at an audio rate in different ways. That's in relation to the modes, which we'll get into in a minute. FMOs can operate mono or stereo, but not quad. And there's a little mono button that I'll show you in a minute. Again, the tuning's the same as the other oscillators, plus or minus 48 semitones. And you can use the tune modulation to modulate that. Again, same as the other oscillators. Vibrato, again, controlled by LFO1, it's plus or minus 1 semitone, same as the normal oscillators, and the key scale is exactly the same again. Right, let's have a look at it. Okay, we just come in here, left click, FMO1, and here we go. That's our FM oscillator. And as you can hear, simple sine wave. There's your mono and stereo button. There's your tuning. Again, same as in a vibrato. Same as the normal oscillator. The D tune's the same as the normal oscillator. So is the key scale. Volume's obvious. Same with the width. Pan again. Now the FM amount is something we'll look at in a second. And of course, as previously, the ones with the 3 dots are modulation sources. Okay, here's where you'll get a quick crash course in FM synthesis. I'm not getting into it in any detail because this is generally about subtractive synthesis, this course. But Zebra makes it nice and easy. Basically, you've got a carrier and a modulator. In this case, this is the carrier, this is the modulator. And you just need to send a signal from one to the other to get a sound. So if I press the key now, not hearing anything, we've got the signal from this oscillator coming in here. We need to activate that somehow. And that's it there. FM by input. What that means is, I can show you that in the text. FM input takes the input signal to frequency modulate its sine wave. So what's happening is the oscillator is sending the signal into the FM oscillator, and it's using that signal to modulate the sine wave. So that's what's happening here. And you can get some evil, evil, evil stuff. And of course it can all be modulated. Modulate that with the LFO. And tunings. So as you can see, just by doing that simple, you're getting crazy sounds already. All the way up, it's pretty much noise, almost, but not quite. But great sounds. The next one is FM Self Plus. Let's have a look at the text and we can explain that in there. Okay, FM by Self Plus. This one takes its own output to frequency modulate the sine wave. So what it's doing is the sine wave is coming out and then bringing it back in and using that to modulate the sine wave. As it says here, at modulation depths above 50%, it will start to generate plenty of aliasing until only white noise is produced. So I can let you hear that. Okay, so as I said, FM synthesis has to have a modulator and a carrier, but it doesn't have to be like this, because the great thing about Zebra is it can send the signal back into itself. So now we've got our sine wave, but if we're using FM Self Plus, we can create so much more just by feeding itself back on itself. It's almost like a saw wave, no? Nice and clean. Of course, it can be modulated. And the more you put this up, it will eventually turn into noise. Okay. The next one is RM input. This is a ring modulation input. Let's go back to the text and I'll explain exactly what that does. Basically, this mode ring modulates the sine wave produced by the frequency modulation oscillator with the signal previously created on the channel that the FMO resides on at the moment. So again, it needs something put in, so we'll put the saw wave, we'll send the saw wave in, it will then ring modulate the sine wave with that signal, and you'll get those kind of weird ring modulation sounds, which I'll let you hear now. Okay, so I've just put the oscillator back in line, it's now feeding in. Now you get these sounds. Ring modulation type sounds. Mess around with the tuning and stuff and the sounds will go crazy. All kinds of crazy stuff. So as you can see, it's an excellent oscillator. Filtered FM, let's go and have a look at the details. Okay, the filtered FM low passes the input signal instead of attenuating it by depth. In this case, the FM knob is just a cut-off of a low-pass filter when the actual depth is at 100%, which I'll show you in a minute. The result's a smoother sounding FM that automatically scales down for high frequencies. So there's less artifacts like aliasing, but the sound may not be as brilliant as normal FM. It's better suited for subtle stuff. Right, let's have a look at that. Okay, so we've got the oscillator coming into the FMO, so we've got the normal sound, but as you can see, we've got the FM all the way up. When it's all the way up, this acts as a low-pass filter. That's it, fully open. Fully closed, even though, well, there you have your basic saw wave, sine wave. So catch me just messing around, but as you can see, crazy stuff. Great for making sound effects, which you've probably already figured out. Last one, FM Self 2 Plus. Let's have a look at what that is. Okay, it takes its own output, squared to the frequency, and modulates its sine wave. While the ordinary feedback creates a sawtooth-like waveform, this one creates a square-like wave. Again, you can see where this could get really crazy in maths, very, very quickly. It's interesting stuff, and maybe when I was learning about this stuff at university, I was interested in all this kind of stuff, but I find getting into the maths and understanding all of this stuff is detrimental to making music. I prefer to use my ears and experiment, but it's up to you. If you want to learn about FM synthesis, there's loads of information about it online. Okay, but I'll let you hear how this sounds. Okay, FM self plus 2. And of course, this will get crazier with the more crazy stuff you've got on going down here as well. Let's just look at a quick preset. Let's just use this percussion one. No, we won't. We'll use the acid one that we created. So we've got a basic. Let's stick an FMO in there somewhere. Put it into stereo. Sorry, that was a bit loud. Let me just turn this down a bit. Let's just get some of the more abrasive stuff. Let's bring it down by an octave. Let's modulate the FM with LFO1. And maybe try RM input. Let's try turning that off for a second. As you can see, it can be added anywhere and it just rapidly changes things. That's just getting crazy now. So as you can see, you can cause all kinds of chaos with it. Anyway, that was fun, but let's get back to the course. Okay, the final bit about the frequency modulation oscillators is the more FO section. It's pretty much the same as the more oscillator section, apart from the key scale section. As you can hear, with the sounds I've been making with the frequency modulation oscillators, the sounds can get very harsh at high frequencies very quick. So that's where the FMO key scale comes in very, very handy. So let's have a look at that. So we've got, let's just get an FM sound. Let's make it a bit harsher. Right, that's a bit harsher. Now if we come down here and we go to more FMO, as you can see, it's almost the same apart from this section here. It's just more of these really. So what you've got FMO 1, 2, 3 and 4 for the 4 FMO oscillators that are available. And there we have the key scale. So if I bring this down somewhat, I can use it to keep the higher pitches on the keyboard in control. Without it going absolutely crazy. And again, the velocity is the same. It's the same as the oscillator. It controls how hard. You can hit it hard and you won't hear anything, or you can hit it soft and you'll hear everything. And in this little section here, you can actually change this the wave that the FMO oscillator's generating. So if you listen, that's the normal pure sine wave, remember? Change it here, quadratic sine, which may be great for FM, that one actually. And you can keep going, there's loads. It can get really gritty and really nasty very quickly. Okay, so that was a short kind of thing, a short overview of the FMO stuff. There's more details in the manual if you want to get in, but to be honest with you, just play around with it. Use the PDF file I've supplied that gives you the basics and just play around with it and go mad. But be careful with the volumes, especially if you're using headphones, because this can damage your ears rapidly. Okay, let's move on. The final section we're going to look at is the noise source. It's not really that exciting, to be honest. It's just noise at the end of the day, but it does have its uses. So we'll go over it nice and quick. We have white noise, which is just a random signal. We've got pink noise, which is noise with the volume of the higher frequencies gradually reduced by 3 decibels per octave. In both the pink noise and the white noise setting, Zebra 2 has a 6 dB low pass and a 6 dB high pass filter to adjust the sound of the noise. Digital noise is much of the same, although it sounds a bit more digitally, and crackles, which I guess sound like old vinyl crackles really. Now the noise modules can be used in either mono or stereo. In stereo mode, the width controls the spread of the two channels, as it does in pretty much everything else. Use pan to set the stereo position of the module's output, as pan does in everything else. Volume to adjust the level. Again, pan and volume can both be modulated by using the modulation knobs. There are 2 filters built into the noise module. In white-pink noise mode, filter 1 is a low pass and filter 2 is a high pass. In other modes, filter 1 controls the pitch and filter 2 controls the amount of noise. And of course, both filters have direct modulators using the usual knob pop-up menu. Let's have a look. Okay, we'll just add the noise. There we go. So we've got white noise, pink, digital and crackles. Let's just have a listen. Good old noise, mono, stereo. You can then change the width, panning, so on and so forth. All very basic. You've got the 2 filters, the low pass and the high pass. Of course, can be modulated by whatever you like. LFO1. Helicopter. You can get carried away for ages just doing all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's white noise. Pink noise, see if you can hear the difference. Of course you can. It's a deeper, more round sound because of the reduction in volume of the higher pitches. But again, filters do the same thing. Can be modulated again the same way. Digital. So this is the pitch, that's the amount of noise. So of course they can be modulated, and the crackles, which is really just noise, but if you turn the filter up, it kind of sounds like, it can sound like fire. Take it right up. It's kind of like vinyl crackles almost, I guess. And of course, can be modulated. So, that's the noise module. Let's go back to the text. Okay, that's it for the oscillator section, which could probably be more properly called sound sources or sound generator section for Zebra 2. I hope this video has been useful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.